Okay, so now we're going to work on finding the slope from points. So our question here is, what is the slope of a line that passes through the points 2, -3 and 2, 13? Write your answer in simplest form. Okay, so 2, -3 and 2, 13 are our 2 points. Okay, so let's see here. 2, -3 and 2, 13. Okay, well, we know our slope is our rise over our run, or our change in the y's over the change in the x's, right? Delta y over delta x. We can also think about that as the more specific formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you like memorizing formulas, that's our slope formula. So we want to identify, hey, x1, y1, x2, y2, and we can just kind of plug and chug through. So y2 would be 13, y1, in this case, I've labeled my -3 as y1, x2 is 2, and x1 is also 2. And now at this point, I want to follow order of operations. So 13 minus a -3, well, that's the same as saying 13 plus 3, right? And then in the denominator, I have 2 minus 2. So 13 plus 3, that's 16, and 2 minus 2 is 0. Did I write that down right? I did, in fact. Okay, so we have some goofy stuff happening here, because what happens when you divide by 0? I'm going to tell you, the world explodes, okay? We cannot divide by 0. It's bad juju, and what we actually should see happening here is a vertical line. If we plotted those, right, 1, 2, I've got a point at 2, -3, and a point at 2, 13, which would be like all the way up here, and that would fail my vertical line test, right? If I drew a vertical line down. So it's not a function. So here we actually have undefined slope. So way to go, giving us a stinker of a problem right off the bat, Delta Math. Okay, let's do another problem, which maybe, let's check. 2, 17. Okay, it's not going to be undefined because we don't have those repeating x's. So let's check out what this is going to look like. So I've got a slope that passes through the points 2, 1 and 17, -17, 2, 1 and 17, -17, 2, 1 and 17, -17. Okay. All right, so here's my 2 points. Same thing, I could fill in, using my slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I just have to kind of label x1, y1, my first point, x2, y2 for my second point. I know my x always is my first number, my y is my second number in my coordinate pair. So filling this in, I'm going to do -17 minus 1 in my numerator and 17 minus 2 in my denominator. And let's see here, -17 minus 1 gives me -18, and 17 minus 2 gives me 15. So I've got -18 over 15. Those both divide by 3. So I can reduce my fraction to -6 over 5. That's one way I could go about this problem. If you're struggling to fill in your y2, y1, x2, x1, because it's important that your order of how you fill this in matters, right? So if you're getting your numbers kind of mixed up as you're filling in your formula, which sometimes happens, another strategy that you can use, let me see if I can come up. Okay, so another strategy that you could use is writing your points vertically, meaning up and down. Okay, and subtracting down. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 minus 17, which gives me negative 15. And then I'm going to do 1 minus a negative 17, which actually minus a negative is really a plus. So that gives me positive 18. And hey, I know I have to take my y's and divide it by my change in my x's. So I'm going to do 18 divided by negative 15. And I know those both reduce by 3, which gives me 6 over negative 5. Or, hey, that negative doesn't really need to stay in the denominator. That's the same thing as negative 6/5, which we see is the same answer that we got over here, right? So we can go ahead and type that in. I've got a slope of negative 6/5. Let's check it. Delta Math likes it. Okay, so that's one strategy. If you're struggling to organize, you can write vertically and subtract down, and then you don't have to figure out how to arrange your x's and your y's. Okay, so that's how you find a slope from 2 points.